Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. Not every good or great or amazing person is your good, great, amazing person. We are going to be talking all about my thoughts on dating in your 20s. I am 24 years old, so I can only really speak on dating in your early 20s. This is all based on personal experience, and obviously it's my own personal opinion. Do with that what you will, take it with a grain of salt, but without further ado, let's hop right into the video. First thing I want to put out there, I think what we all forget is your perfect person exists because you exist. And maybe they're not perfect. Obviously, everybody has their imperfections and their flaws, but it's those imperfections that you learn to love, and you get together and you grow together and you kind of heal those things with each other. Like, your perfect person is out there because you exist, and I truly believe that. I don't think there's any need or reason for you to ever settle, because would you want somebody to settle for you? Would you really feel okay with yourself if you knew someone was settling for you? Let's just say you guys match like 90%. There is a person out there that matches you 100%. And I think a lot of us get stuck doing a disservice to ourselves and to the other person when we settle, when we have no business settling. Because why? Like, why are you settling? There is someone out there for you because you exist. So anyway, I have a list of talking points so I don't lose my train of thought, because I have a tendency to ramble. So the first thing I want to talk about are the dating apps. Whether you're on them, you've never seen them, never taken a dip in the dating pools on a dating app, if you've never done that, lucky you, because dating apps can be very scary. They can be very overwhelming. There's so many of them. There's Hinge, there's Tinder, there's Bumble, there's Duet. I think there's some more, but I don't even know. I've never used Tinder. I have been on Hinge and I've been on Bumble before. It's not fun. They were not very long stints that I was ever on them, because my matches would just be so overwhelming. There's no way for me to make my way through all of them. And also, I don't know, I just think it's not normal to be pushed out in front of that many people. It's not normal to have that much exposure on you and be connecting with that many people at once. It's very overwhelming. I will say, when you get on one of these apps and you have that initial shock of seeing how many matches you get, it can be a definite confidence boost and an ego boost. But after a while, you're kind of like, these people are really just judging you based on your appearance, and that's it. You can try to talk to them, and sometimes you'll get into good conversations with people, and other times they are just dry as can be, or they have one thing on their mind. My brother tells me every single time I have ever gone on a date, he's like, remember, they're a man and they want one thing from you. So keep that in the forefront of your mind when you are talking to someone or hanging out with someone. Be very observant and aware of them and how they're talking to you. Even before you meet them in person, like, be very aware of what they're saying and how they're wording things. So just take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, all I'm gonna say about dating apps is I've heard success stories through dating apps, but I guess that's just the way that society works right now. Is we are so desensitized, I think, to meeting people online. Like, you're a total stranger you're meeting online, and you're trusting them at face value based on the picture that you're gonna meet the right person. I don't know, it's very weird. I think in this dating era, it goes two different ways. You're either the type of person who is totally okay with meeting your significant other through a dating app, or you feel that that's the only way that you can meet a person, whether that's, you know, the standard dating apps or social media, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, etc. Or you are on the other half, where you want to meet someone in person, out in the wild. Like, you want to meet someone when you're already out doing something that you enjoy doing, because I guess in our minds, if we're out doing something that we enjoy and we meet somebody while we're doing that activity, it feels more authentic, and it feels like, oh, you've already had this foundation like you can build from, because they're doing something that you also are doing. So there's already that like mutual common ground. So it kind of makes communicating or like talking to them in that situation a lot easier. At least that's the way that I think of it, and that's what I'm hoping for myself. I grew up listening to how people that were older than me had met their significant others, and I never stopped daydreaming about meeting my significant other in a similar way. So I'm kind of anti-dating apps. I think there are ways for you to meet people outside of dating apps. You just have to be doing the right things, and what matters is doing the most authentic thing for you. Next, I wanted to talk about talking stages, because I feel like that's what happens next. Like, you start in dating apps or you meet in person, and I think generally if you meet a person out in the wild, you're less likely to be stuck in a talking stage for as long, because I feel like when you meet someone out in the wild, your initial thought is, I want to get this person's number and I want to hang out with them more. Because if you've met them in the wild, you talk a little bit when you first meet and you hit it off and you're like, wow, like I really like this person, I would love to continue spending more time with them. You're kind of going to be geared to immediately go on a date, and then you can further get to know that person. You've already seen their face, you already know what they look like, you kind of already know what to expect energy wise from them. Whereas when you're coming from a dating app into a talking stage, the talking stage a lot of people put a lot of weight into, because you kind of want to know what you're getting yourself into, and you try to overcompensate for the fact that you've never met them in person. You're trying to get as much information from them beforehand as possible. But yeah, that's my opinion of talking stages. A talking stage should not last very long. If you get stuck in a talking stage for longer than a month, you have now entered a situationship. Situationships, I have found myself in many situationships before, and they are not fun, because once you get stuck, it's like this, it's like a mental game with another person, where sometimes in situationships you'll hang out in person, but a lot of times you're just constantly passing back and forth excuses as to why you can't meet or why you can't hang out, but then you overcompensate by talking a lot, and then you'll also go through phases where you probably don't talk to them at all. And it's this like toxic up and down roller coaster ride, where one minute things are going really, really well, and then the next second it's like, what happened? My situationship experiences have been exactly as I described them. To try to make something happen, it never quite worked, and we would get really, really close, and I think we just got addicted to the buildup. So then we would, you know, go through that experience of building ourselves up to almost like the climax, if you will, and then right before, everything just falls apart. Everything falls apart on both ends, which was a very toxic mental cycle for me, because I was like, why, if this person is just going to turn around and ghost me, why does this person keep coming back for more? Like, am I the problem or are they the problem? And it was very disorienting. I've heard stories of people who have broken out of a situationship and they are now dating the person that they were in a situationship with. I don't really know how that works. If somebody has experienced that, let me know in the comments, but I still have never met someone in my own life, and obviously I've never experienced that, where a situationship turned into a relationship. So that idea in itself baffles me, but you know, crazier things have happened, I'm sure. Anyway, so I talked about situationships. I'm gonna ease into ghosting, because I feel like situationships is a lot of coming and going and ghosting, and then that's usually how you get out of a situationship, is to just like cut ties. You stop communication, and whether you're the one doing the ghosting or you're the one getting ghosted, neither is a fun end to be on. Like, it's not fun being ghosted, and it's not fun doing the ghosting. I think sometimes it's a little bit easier to do the ghosting depending on your mind frame. I've had my fair share of experiences where I have ghosted someone, whether it was because they were making me uncomfortable or they were being stubborn and they weren't listening to what I was actually saying. They didn't want to hear what I had to say. They were being very rude and disrespectful or whatever. Those are usually the only times that I ghost someone. But most of the time when I get ghosted, it's the result of miscommunication or poor emotional intelligence from the other person involved. Something else that I want to remind you of is you are enough. As you are enough. There will be a person who loves you in every capacity in your life. There is a person that will love you and all of your muchness. You will never be too much for the right person, and I want to continue to remind you of that, because I know that when you get ghosted, that is immediately where your mind goes, is what did I do wrong? Why am I not enough for this person? How can I make them like me? How can I make them come back to me? And that's really not the mentality to have, because if they decide to ghost you, it's their loss. That should be the mentality that you have. It's their loss. I am perfectly fine the way that I am, and I'm going to continue to do my own thing and pursue my own path, and the right person will find me at the right time, and you have to trust in that. And I know it can be so difficult if you are being ghosted right now, if you have been ghosted in the past and you've been dealing with some mental, like emotional, not so nice thoughts going through your head right now because of the ghosting situation or a toxic situationship that you've been in. I just want you to be reminded that, again, the right person is going to be so eager to take you out on a date. The right person is going to check off all of the boxes on your list, no matter how crazy it is. The right person is going to be expressive. They're not going to be nonchalant. They're going to be very vocal about how they feel about you. They're going to want to see you and spend as much time with you as possible. They're going to want to get to know you, and they're going to remember the things that you tell them. They're going to remind you that they care about you and show you that they care about you based on how they act, not just with the words that they say, because words are kind of empty if there's no action to back it up. And that is another thing that I've found myself getting caught in a lot in these situationships and talking stages. A guy is very good at talking when he knows what he wants and he knows how to get it. He knows how to play the game. If you are playing a game with a guy and he is saying all of the right things but has no action to back it up, that's when you find yourself in a problem, and you're most likely going to end up getting hurt. Okay. This is also something that I want to touch base on because it kind of goes along with the situationships and being ghosted and everything. This is when an ex comes back. Now, I have heard success stories where exes, you know, they go their separate ways and they do their own thing and they do the work, and then they come back because they still have emotional feelings with each other that they want to explore, and they kind of give it a second chance, and they see if the work that they've put in outside of the relationship with each other is enough to build a healthier relationship going forward. And I have heard success stories where it's worked out, and I've heard stories where it doesn't work out at all, and it should be avoided at all costs. There are some exes that you just need to do no contact, and I'm talking unfollow them and block them, remove their number, block their phone number, whatever you have to do. I have experienced pretty much every single one of my exes coming back and trying to talk to me, whether it's a couple months later, 6 months later, a year later, or even 2 years later. I've experienced it all. And honestly, I think more than anything, you have to evaluate yourself and where you are in life and why they're coming into your life. Like, are they genuinely wanting to reconnect with you, or are they coming into your life when you're vulnerable? Are they coming into your life when you are at a high and they want a piece of that? So be very aware of what's going on in your life when these people come back into it. That's my advice. That's my little warning from my own personal experience, but it will happen most likely. I don't know what else to say about that. So anyway, okay, I wanted to touch base and circle back a little bit because I forgot to mention this. In terms of ghosting, I think it is sad to ghost someone. I mean, if you just don't like a person and you don't want to talk to them anymore, just be upfront. Like, be honest with that person, because honesty and being upfront will go a lot further than ghosting someone, because it might be easier for you. Like, if you're the one ghosting that person, it might be easier for you because then you don't have to have that confrontation. And I know a lot of people don't like to have confrontation, but you're actually really hurting the person that you are ghosting. Being a person who's been ghosted, I would much rather have someone be honest with me and say, hey, you know, what I'm looking for has changed, and I don't think I can be what you were originally looking for, or I don't think that where we were going is in the same direction anymore. Or personally, I just, you know, after we've talked some more, I just don't think that we are a good fit for one another. Like, there's so many ways to let a person down easy and be honest with them, being upfront with them, where you can feel good about yourself because you were honest and upfront, and they can feel good knowing that they didn't get ghosted and there was a conversation and there was that maturity there. Because I think that's what a lot of people lack nowadays, is just a sense of respect and maturity for the other person that they're talking to. That leads me to my next point, which is being very upfront with what you want, and kind of connects into point 2, which is getting very clear and specific on the type of person that you're looking for, the qualities, traits, like what this man does or how he treats you, core beliefs and values. But if you have, and I'm saying like even the tiniest details, whatever it is, like I'm telling you, write it down. You are more likely to get what you ask for when you write it down and when you can actually acknowledge that this is what I'm looking for. And also it makes it very easy for you to, I guess, filter through people. And I don't want that to sound like terrible when I say filter through people, but I mean it in a sense of you kind of get this list of questions in your head that you can ask a person when you first meet them, and based on the responses that they give you from those questions, after those, like, I would call them like preliminary questions, you kind of know whether or not you want to continue pursuing that person. And then as time progresses, you obviously ask more questions, or you just share more stories with each other, and you get to know them on a deeper level, so you can start checking off boxes to your list. And you'd be amazed at how many boxes can be checked off from a person once you actually acknowledge what it is that you want. I also think it's really important, and this is where the tie back comes into, being very upfront with what you're looking for. If you are single and you are working on yourself, I think it's even more important for you to be very honest with yourself on what you're looking for and where your intentions are, because it's very easy to get distracted and pulled to something new and something shiny and something that could very much take away from your time and your energy and your pursuits towards yourself, and can pull you away in a negative aspect. Don't go into it wishy-washy unless you're actually kind of open to either direction. But if you are open to either direction, you will probably be exposed to people who just want a good time. They just want to hook up with you. They don't want anything serious because they don't want commitment. And you have to be very strict about that with yourself and with the other person. You have boundaries in place for a reason. And if you don't have any boundaries, I highly recommend you set some boundaries for yourself and for any person that comes into your life. What are you willing to put up with, and what are you not willing to put up with? What are your non-negotiables? What are things that you're okay with? But seriously, if there is something that is a non-negotiable, you better make sure that you know and that they know that it's a non-negotiable for you. And if that means the relationship does not continue any further, then it doesn't continue any further. But you don't settle. Like, please don't settle if that person doesn't see their life going in the direction that you see your life going. It's not going to end well for you, and you're compromising yourself, and you're compromising a potential better future for yourself for somebody who can only give you maybe 75% or 80%, or, you know, God forbid, only 50%. You want a whole individual who has their own goals and aspirations, but also somebody who is going to be emotionally mature and respectful enough to grow with you and to learn together and to experience life together. And somebody that you can have those conversations with each other, like you can have conversations with one another and you can work through any issues that may arise. That is what you're looking for. That is what my hope is for you to experience. I mean, once you figure out what your standards are and what you're looking for and what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept, you kind of have this base foundation. And if this person doesn't check these boxes, if this person doesn't fall in line with this direction that I'm going, I'm not going to give them my time and energy. And it's not because they're not a good person. You know, they could be a great person, but they're not your great person. Not every good or great or amazing person is your good, great, amazing person. You're looking for your perfect person. You're looking for that person who's going to match you in almost every capacity that you offer. You know, you're looking for that person who's going to be the best match for you going forward. And again, please, please, please do not settle. You deserve so much more than to settle for someone just because you don't want to be lonely anymore. Because I understand being single in your 20s can be very lonely. It can be very boring, because I think when you've taken the path to work on yourself and to heal yourself and to, you know, better yourself, improve yourself, whether that's through physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, whatever it is, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've got myself down. I've got myself covered. I feel very confident and very comfortable with my relationship with myself. And then you're just kind of sitting there like, when's my person coming? When is the next chapter of my life going to start? And we always kind of associate the next chapter or with another person coming into our life. And until that person comes into our life, it is kind of easy to get bored of our routine because, you know, I think the saying is like we prioritize ourselves so much that we end up not really having a lot of friends and we don't really have a huge social life. At least that's where I find myself. But I'm okay with that because I know that there's still stuff that I need to heal and there's still stuff that I need to work on before I can meet my perfect person, before I can meet that person who's going to match me, because I want to be at a certain level and then match person at that level, because that would be epic. That would be fantastic. But you know, I also trust in God and the universe to bring me the right person at the right time, because the other thing I want to remind you is you should never go into something chasing it. You want to be in the attracting energy. You want to be in the flow. You want to be divinely connected so that God's divine timing can line up the way that it should, the way that it's intended to. And that only happens if you are in the flow and if you kind of let go and let God kind of move those pieces in your life. And sometimes things happen and you think it's the end of the world, and that something ending where you think it's the end of the world could honestly turn around and be the best thing to ever happen to you because of the things that happen after that, like as a result of that. So keep that in mind, keep that as a reminder. And if you are in that phase where you're feeling a little bit lonely and you're kind of like, when's it my turn? Because it's very easy to feel like we are behind in life when we're, again, exposed to so many people's lives through social media. You see people who are younger than me that have kids, who are married with a house, and they're living their adult life. And I'm like, I still feel like a kid sometimes. And I know that in my mind, I would not be ready at this point in time in my life. I would not be ready to bring in a child. I would not be ready to be married to someone unless I had been dating them for a couple years and I have this established relationship with them and comfort with them. But that's just me. That's where I'm at. That's where kind of my boundaries are. I don't want to just like jump into something because I feel like I'm running behind. I don't want to settle for someone just because I feel like I'm behind. You're never behind in life. We're just constantly being shown other people's lives, which makes us reevaluate our own and kind of put more pressure on our shoulders than what's necessary. So sometimes the relationship content is cute, but I try to not watch a lot of relationship content because I know that's not necessarily where I'm at right now. And I don't want to make myself feel like I'm behind or like I'm not doing enough, or you know, then the thoughts of what's wrong with me, why isn't there somebody in my life, like is there something I could be doing more of, is there a way that I can make myself more approachable to people, and it's just you don't want to fall down that rabbit hole. It's not worth it. You're not going to get much out of it other than low self-esteem, and if you can avoid that, I would suggest it. So maybe step into the self-love and the pursuit of your highest self, and you know, learning the things that you like and don't like. Maybe dip your toes in that content for a while and see where that gets you. But anyway, with all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope some of this resonated with you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.